let me officially welcome you to tonight's webinar, Your Marketing Sucks and What to Do About It. I'm your host tonight, Dr. Tom Preston. For those of you that I haven't had the opportunity to meet, I've been in practice for over 27 years, been a professional coach consultant in the chiropractic profession now for over 17 years, worked with thousands of people. And I can tell you that categorically, most entrepreneurs, particularly those people I work with in the chiropractic world, find marketing to be kind of a strange monster. It's something that most chiropractors, in my experience, don't do well. There is the occasional exception to that. And my contention behind the reason that most chiropractors or entrepreneurs in general don't do well at this is A, we're not trained in university for how to market, and yet as small business owners, marketing is part of the process. It's part of how we share our gifts with humanity. So it's something that is essential. I wish it was something that was taught more of. Certainly when I was at chiropractic college many years ago, they didn't teach us jack squat about it. So everything that I've learned about marketing, I've had to learn after the fact. I think most of us are loving people. We're loving serving people. We're loving our commitment to humanity. We don't necessarily love learning all the different aspects of business, particularly say marketing. And yet what I hope to share with you tonight is that actually getting a better handle on marketing, understanding why you should be marketing, and then also giving you some how-tos market will help you to get a clarity about that and hopefully remove some of the blocks that you may well have, to marketing and why you are or aren't marketing. Okay, so let's go in. In order to do this, folks, Plato said years ago that the unexamined life is not worth living. Another way to say that for me, said in a slightly different way as it relates to how you express yourself and how you examine yourself in life, is to really look for your why. Because when the why is big enough, the hows look after itself. And my why as a chiropractor, serving humanity to help them live a more fully expressed, more healthy, more fully functional life, mentally, physically, and spiritually, was my why. That was my why in chiropractic, continues to be as a coach consultant. And so my why was so strong that even though I didn't know how to market, I was willing to learn and put forth the energy to do that. And so what I want to do is start with our why, because I think if we start with the why, we're going to increase the probability that any of the challenges you have in your hows are going to be overcome, which is really, to me, the key to successful and quantum growth, in life or in practice. So, if we go all the way back to a common question that gets asked, it's a question for you to ask yourselves in reflection right now. And that question is, am I a human being having a spiritual experience, or am I a spiritual being having a human experience? And again, it's not a right or wrong answer. It's obviously not a moral question. It's whatever it is that you feel is true for you. And again, as I said, it's not a moral question. So the answer to it, doesn't make you a good or a bad person or a better or worse person, regardless of what your answer is. But there are implications or consequences to your answer. So for me, I feel very strongly, I know for me it's true that I am a spiritual being. There's more to me than just, physical flesh and blood. If I was to fall over dead in this next, half a second, and you were to look at all the physical aspects of me and weigh me and measure me and, smell me and all the five senses, smell me would be a bad idea. I actually put cologne on today. You would find that for, that first moments of transition or death, that, everything would physically be the same. But obviously something's different when you're not present, when you're dead. And so that thing for me that's missing is that essence, that sense of spirit or soul or whatever it is you want to call it. But to me, I know for me that I'm a spiritual being, having this human experience. Why that's important is because for me, why it's important and why I'm asking you to even consider it tonight underneath the context of business and marketing. Like somebody might be out there sitting, what the hell's this got to do with marketing, Tom? I contend it's got everything to do with marketing. Because if you accept the contention that you're a spiritual being having a human experience, then the question comes up that I want you to consider or to ask or to answer is, so why are you here? What is the purpose of your spiritual presence here on the planet? What is it that you're here to do with your life at this time? And Webster's dictionary or Wikipedia defines purpose as the reason something exists or is done. And I contend for me as a spiritual being, there's a reason I'm here. There's something for me to do. There's things for me to learn. There's things for me to evolve through. And there's things for me to experience and things for me to express in this life. And I would offer for you that if that resonates with you, if that conversation internally resonates with you, that you are in fact a spiritual being having a human experience. That for you, there's a purpose, there's a reason you're here. There's things that you're here to experience and things that you're here to express yourself as. For me, I've got many roles that I play. Part of my role is as a father. I've got 5 beautiful daughters that are literally just, the center of my universe. I'm also a husband. I've got my beautiful wife, Shelley, that has just been, the light of my life for over 30 years. I'm also a chiropractor and a healer. I'm also a brother. I'm also a son. I'm also an athlete. I'm also a coach consultant. I'm also a business person. And I have many different ways that I express myself in this life. But my offering for you to consider is this, is that if it resonates with you and you understand that you're here to express yourself, how is it you're here to express yourself? And is your chiropractic practice part of the reason and part of the way that you're expressing yourself? Because if that resonates and that's true for you, then what will come up for you, or what comes up for me, is this second slide I want to share with you tonight, which is really this concept of interconnected purposes. Because see, I contend the creative intelligence in the universe designed it such that we are like metaphorically like links on a chain, just like the slide demonstrates. And as links on a chain, we all have a specific purpose to fulfill. We all have a certain reason we exist. And some of that is to play many roles. As I said earlier, some of my many roles as a father and a husband and a friend and an athlete and a chiropractor and a consultant. And, every one of us has a different role to play. I've got a gentleman that, which I'll tell you a story about here in a minute, who's a plumber, who's just one of the most inspired plumbers I've ever met. I've got an accountant who absolutely loves accounting and loves numbers. I'm decent with numbers, but I don't have that same level of passion that they have. I've got somebody that owns a car dealership that's a dear friend of mine. And this guy is so inspired about automobiles. He lives it, breathes it, eats it, and sleeps it. And with each one of us, if we just recognize what our role is and we connect to it, then just like a beautiful chain of interconnected links in a great big long beautiful chain, we have the sense of interconnected purposes. And because I don't love to sell cars or deal with cars or all that stuff, I love to have someone sell me one. I'd love to have someone fix it for me. I love the purpose of it, but I don't love that other side of it. But so if I didn't have my friend Carmen to do that, then I wouldn't have a car. And also from a health and well-being standpoint, if he wasn't able to see me and get adjusted, he wouldn't be as healthy as he could be. And if my inspired plumber, let me tell you an interesting story, folks, about my friend Mark, the plumber. Mark is literally the most inspired plumber I've ever met in my life. This guy is so inspired about it that it doesn't matter what time of the day or night. If I've got a plumbing problem, like heaven forbid a toilet's plugged or something like that, he's there. And he talks about it. He's excited about it. And because he's able to do that stuff, I don't have to, deal with it. I remember at my office one time, my assistant Sandra came to me one time with a plumber's plunger over her shoulder and came into me in the adjusting area and said, "Hey, boss, I've checked my contract. This isn't in the fine print. Johnny just jerked about a 4-pound turd in the toilet and it's plugged. I ain't dealing with it. Here you go." And she went to hand me the plunger. And it's like, I ain't dealing with it either because I'm not inspired by that. That's not my purpose. That's not my reason for being, right? And yet I could quickly call Mark on a cell phone, and Mark was there within a short period of time, able to deal with the 4-pound turd that Johnny released, and away we went. So thankfully, he's there. And I want to tell you a story. It's hypothetical, but maybe not, about this fictional second grade student. And regardless of your feelings about leadership and politics and stuff, let's just take a figure in the world today. Let's just take someone, Barack Obama in the United States as a president of the United States. And let's just fictionalize that you, in your role as a chiropractor, aren't willing to get out there and share with the world your gifts and how it is that you want to express yourself. And as a result of you not doing your job and playing your role in the interconnected purposes of life, little Barack is scheduled that day to do a talk in front of his class, and he's a second grade student, and he's terrified, absolutely terrified of oration. But he knows that Mrs. Smith, his really sweet grade 2 teacher, is going to be there to help him out and to walk him through it. She's going to be there to support him. But Mrs. Smith wakes up with another in a series of cluster migraine headaches. You guys can insert whatever illness, accident theory you want, but I'm just going to illustrate something here. So let's just say she has a cluster migraine headache. She's puking, she can't get out of bed, and so as a result, she can't go there to support little Barack that day. Then as a result of that, she's got a fill-in. And the fill-in shows up, and she's just a grumpy old witch. And when Barack gets up to do his talk, she belittles him, and she makes fun of him. And little Barack gets down after his talk. He's crying, he's upset. And he promises himself that amongst whatever else he's going to do in his life, he's never going to public speak again. And think about how that would change that little child's life and how it may have changed the course of leadership and politics, at least in the United States, if not arguably the free world today, had that happened. And yes, that's a fictional story, but is it really, right? Because it's that kind of stuff that happens each and every day in our world by people not getting clarity about who they are, what their role is, and how they can express themselves in this life. And so as a result of that, they don't fulfill their God-given destiny to fulfill their purpose, their reason for being. And as a result of that, the ripple effect doesn't happen in their lives. So for example, if Mark hadn't showed up to, plunge my toilet that day, there's probably some people I wouldn't have been able to adjust. And if I couldn't have adjusted them and they might not have been at their peak of health that day or night, maybe they would have gotten a car wreck that day and somebody would have been, motherless or fatherless as a result. Who knows what that is, folks, right? But to me, it makes logical sense to see that if we're not fulfilling our destinies, if we're not playing our role, then there are other people that aren't getting a chance to fulfill their roles. Because to the degree that I fulfill my purpose, allows those people to fulfill their purpose, like my fictional second grade teacher. And by her fulfilling her purpose, she allows those children's lives to be touched and allows them to fulfill their purposes, and so on, and so on, and so on, like a great, pebble dropped into a well or a pond that just the waves just ripple on and out forever. And when I got that, folks, when I got that like at a heartfelt level, I could no longer say that I didn't know it, so I was no longer naive. And I could no longer be arrogant enough to not play my role. So even though my how to market wasn't strong, my why was super strong. And I really want to start, and I'm hoping to just, if I stop this webinar tonight, I would hope that every person here would get more clarity about their why. And just if you take that concept of interconnected purposes and you leave here with nothing other than that and focus on and create the courage inside of yourself to, despite not knowing the hows, which I'm going to share some with you, but just your why, then and you recognize that you have a moral, or if you allow me, a spiritual responsibility to your other brothers and sisters of the 7 billion of us on the planet to fulfill your part, your role, your destiny, your purpose. I feel like you're going to have more inspiration to get out there and do what it is that you're meant to do. One of my favorite philosophers is a philosopher named Ayn Rand, and she brought up a concept in some of her sentinel writings, particularly Atlas Shrugged, where she talks about the code of the trader. And basically the code of the trader can get translated into this, folks, right? What we do in our lives, who we are, first off, dictates what we do. So who we be or become dictates what we do. And what we do dictates what we have. Let's talk about this in reference to, to marketing or to our sharing our gifts, our purpose to the world, right? It's through the use of our minds and what it is that our mind can create, co-create, transition, joint venture, the things that we physically do with our mouths, with our hearts, with our hands, whatever it is in life, that is the sharing the biggest and bestest within us. And if what I shared just a few minutes ago resonates, then you have, as I feel I have, a spiritual responsibility to fulfill my purpose, to be the best version of me I can be, and to share my gifts, whatever those are, right? Some of my gifts just happen to be, as a chiropractor and as a speaker and as a trainer and as a consultant, as a coach. And so I feel like I have a spiritual responsibility to fulfill my role. And I also feel like I have the responsibility to tell the world that that's who I am and that's what I do. Because if Mark, for example, my plumber friend, didn't have a sign and didn't have, some advertising out there so that I could find him, then who the flame blazes would I call when my toilet's plugged up? I wouldn't know who to call. I wouldn't know who to reach out to if he didn't have a website, if he didn't have, some of those tools that he has in his business to be able to have people find him. Then how would I ever find him? How could he fulfill his purpose? And how could my purpose not be fulfilled or wouldn't be fulfilled in this example if I couldn't find him? Because I'd have to be out there plunging my own toilet, selling, finding out, building or fixing my own car, or doing my own, income tax or whatever it is that my accountant does, as just a series of examples, right? So what the code of the trader basically states is that when we get this, when we own this stuff, right, our time and talent, as I said earlier, ultimately comes from the power of our mind and the ability of our bodies to perform certain activities, to complete certain tasks. When we do this consciously and of our own free will, we are free to enjoy the fruits of our labors without guilt or fear of repercussions. We are free to trade the biggest and best that's within us with others for the biggest and best that is within them, often using the intermediaries of dollars. And I can tell you, folks, when I really got that code of the trader, I had no guilt about standing in front of a group and sharing it. Not everybody's necessarily going to want what I have to offer. But there's a really simple 4-letter word for that. It's spelled NEXT, next. And if you put all of your marketing, eggs in one basket and say, I'm going to go do this one talk, and if I don't get anybody, then I must suck as a marketer, and maybe I'm not meant to be whatever, profession you're in, then I would say you're playing pretty small. And I would say from a spiritual perspective, you're being selfish to not share the biggest and best that's within you with the rest of the world and not fulfill your purpose with the world. Because really, marketing, folks, in a nutshell, is really simple, right? The challenge is that other people don't know what the biggest and best is that's within us that we're choosing to trade on the open market unless we tell them, right? Unless we have a billboard, unless we go out and do talks, unless we do screenings, unless we ask for referrals, unless we have a yellow page ads, unless we have a website, unless we have social media, unless whatever it is that we do, right? Marketing is actually really simple. It's just telling others what the biggest and best that's within us and offering to trade it on the open marketplace, free of guilt, free of reservations, knowing full well that not everybody's going to necessarily buy what I have to offer. I was told that somebody recently bought, a friend of mine's friend, recently bought an original oil painting from Europe for $2.7 million. I wasn't at Sotheby's that day. Why wasn't I at Sotheby's that day? Because I have no interest in buying original oil paintings. A, I couldn't afford them. B, I don't value them even if I could afford them, right? So would Sotheby's not have an auction because Tom Preston didn't, want to buy an oil painting? Hell no. There's other people out there who would want that. And so as a result of that, they would basically, step up, and Sotheby's has a business, obviously, quite frankly, thriving because there are people who do want that kind of stuff, right? So again, we do not let our fear, as John Gardner so wisely said, let me share this slide with you, great American educator. He said, we pay a heavy price for our fear of failure. It's a powerful obstacle to growth. It assures the progressive narrowing of the personality and prevents exploration and experimentation. There is no learning without some difficulty and fumbling. If you want to keep on learning, you must keep on risking failure all your life. And I can tell you as an entrepreneur, as a business person, as a marketer, I screw up regularly. That's part of the price of admission. But my why, folks, my why is so strong. My spiritual responsibility to you, to the other people that I serve, to the other people of the 7 billion who do want what I have to offer, that is so strong for me that I get over my fear of failure and I move on and do it anyways. And I find other, better, different ways to get my message in front of people. Because as I said earlier, folks, it's really simple. Telling others, listen to my words carefully, telling others what the biggest and best is that's within us and offering to trade it on the open marketplace. That's really what happens in a free, democratic, capitalistic nature. It's not complicated. Having said all of that, folks, and hopefully helping you understand the why, I have found over my 17 years as a professional coach consultant that there are 10 really distinct blocks internally on the why side, inside of us, that tend to block us from expressing that and getting to that. Because a lot of people will, hear me share these thoughts and they'll understand it and they'll feel it at like a mitochondrial cell wall level. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to change anything in their lives. I pray there's always at least one person on these programs that will just step up and step out as a result of something I've said, and that's made my time, valuable and worthwhile. And maybe there's more than one, hopefully. But on the short term here, I want to go over some of these blocks to marketing. We've certainly got an in-depth program that we've done on this. It's called Releasing the Blocks, which if you'd be interested in that, we could tell you a little bit about how to do that later on. But I want to just go through briefly these 10 blocks to marketing. Not understanding the why. We just went through that, folks, right? And went through that hopefully to the degree that you can understand it. Talking about the why on the spirit plane, sharing the biggest and best within you. We have a spiritual, and in my case, a moral responsibility to share that. Number 2, second biggest, is the fear of the unknown. When we come out of the caves, whatever hundreds of thousands or millions of years ago, folks, things that we didn't understand, things that we weren't clear about, things that we just didn't know about, we became genetically programmed to fear, because that fuzzy tiger with the big teeth that our caveman friend went over to see that we never saw again, That was something we didn't know about, and apparently, Caveman Bob didn't come back because probably got eaten. So we got that fear of the unknown, and that can literally stop people. So there's an easy solution to that, folks, which again we cover in the Releasing the Blocks program. But literally, it can be as simple as just getting educated, right? Learning about it. You've probably spent 10,000 hours at least in your skills as a chiropractor. How many hours have you put into marketing? Most people, a handful, if that. Learn about it, educate it, read about it. One of my favorite books on this is called Persuasion: The Art of Influence by Robert Chilton. And so again, I encourage you to get that book if you want to just deal with that fear of the unknown. Number 3, fear of failure. A lot of people, if they're not good at something, they don't even want to try because they don't want to suck at it. They don't want to look bad. That is an internal thing. And my perspective on the spirit plane, folks, there is no such thing as failure. There's just a series of steps getting to the end result. The famous story, told about Thomas Edison, who was being chastised for having this, how could you have over 700 times failed at trying to figure out, the element to use for the incandescent light bulb? The famous story goes, I didn't fail. It was just a 700 and some step process. So again, your marketing and sharing the biggest investments in you to the world, there is no such thing as failure. There might be multiple steps to doing it well, which you could shortcut with some training and some reading and some coaching and so on. But again, it's not failure. Just really isn't a part of the equation from that perspective. Number 4, the fourth most common thing I see is not wanting to waste time. And number 5, which is very much tied to this, is not wanting to waste money. Nobody wants to feel like a chump. No one wants to go around in circles and put their heart and soul into something and then feel like they didn't get good results from it. And so again, there's more effective ways to do that. And quite frankly, if you don't want to do the marketing for your business, hire it out, right? Outsource it. There's lots of good companies out there that can help you do that. Not wanting to waste money is very similar to that. And of course, we go into this in much more depth in the Releasing the Blocks program, but I want to just give you a quick thumbnail sketch tonight. There's also the fear of rejection personally or fear of rejection professionally, number 6 and 7. And on the personal front, there's a whole wide variety of things as a coach consultant I run into as to why people have the fear of rejection personally. Pardon me. And for many people, just getting their why strong enough is enough for them to really own it. But I would just say that we go through this again in depth in the program, Releasing the Blocks. But again, for now, it's a topic that has so many roots to it. It's impractical for me to talk about it on tonight's program. But I just wanted you to know that it is a very common one. And if it's something that you have a fear of, you're not alone. Professionally, this is the people that are afraid of what will the PTs think, or what will the MDs think, or what will my neighbor, the chiropractor, think if I go to a mall screening, or I do a talk, or I have a yellow page ad or something. Will they think I'm broke? Will they laugh at me? Will they, who knows what it is that goes through people's heads. And again, if you can get past that and focus more on the client and on the, my fictional example of the 2-year-old teacher who has cluster migraine headaches that you could probably help. If you could focus more on reaching them and worry more about them than worry about yourself and your own fears, you'll find that these two will resolve, pretty quickly. Another one, which is kind of the sort of the flip side of the direction we're headed with some of these earlier ones, is the fear of people's own light or their own greatness. There's that famous quote by Marianne Williamson that, Nelson Mandela quoted at his inauguration. It's our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Who am I to be talented, fabulous, and gorgeous? Quite frankly, who are you not to be? You're a child of God, and your playing small doesn't serve the world. So again, we don't have time to get into it in great depth tonight, folks, but again, it is one that you may resonate with. Scarcity conscious. And there are literally people out there who will push abundance away, and they may actually have the skills and the ability to go out and market and build their business, but because they're afraid of being wealthy, they have a scarcity consciousnness. They equate being broke with being spiritual or something, or there's many faces to it, folks, which we get into a lot in our coaching. It's another one that we see with regularity. And of course, the last one is burnout, or carrying all the load on your own. This is something we loosely refer to as super person syndrome, right? Where the blue tights and the red cape get a little bit old because you're trying to carry the weight of the world on your own shoulders. And again, without a team, without support, without outsourcing in today's world, particularly with social media and digital websites and stuff, carrying it all on your own is just not wise. Because if what it is you feel strongly you do is you're a great, diagnostician, you're a great doc, you're a great adjuster, you're a great servant, those are the pieces you do, and you feel like it's either beneath you or you shouldn't have to, or you don't want to learn, or whatever it is about marketing, then outsource it, folks. There's companies out there that could help you. You do not need to stress over this if, in fact, you don't want to learn. Having said that, if you're someone like me who committed to being a lifelong learner, it's kind of fun to learn more about marketing. There's definitely ethical and optimal ways, to do it. So that's a fair bit, folks, on the why. I wanted to spend almost half the webinar on that. And now I'd like to move into some of the hows, right? Because in marketing, I don't care whether you're an accountant or a chiropractor or a shoe salesman or what you do, there's generally 4 categories of marketing. There's procedures and special events, both inside your business and outside your business, internal and external. And my highest recommendation is for you to do both, to market both inside your business and outside your business. There may be more emphasis at different stages of your career. For example, if you're early in practice as an entrepreneur, it might be 95% external because you don't have anybody inside your practice to be able to market to. If you've been in practice 30 years and a lot of your referrals come from word of mouth, that's great. Maybe you're going to go 80 or 90% internal. But I think personally, I feel it's an error in judgment to not do any external marketing because those internal people will eventually, the novelty factor will wear off. And also, too, there are those people, like I said, like that fictional second grade teacher, Barack Obama's fictional teacher with the fictional, cluster migraine headaches, that literally isn't going to know that you're there if you don't let her know that you're there, right? So again, doing some external marketing is wise. I never like to see it with even my most veteran clients, been in practice 20, 30, 40 years. I never like to see it be anything more than about 70% internal, 30% external. And obviously, as I said, for newer clients, for people that are newer to practice, it might be 95 or 98% external for a while until you start to build up your patient base and people get to know that you're really good at what you do. Okay? So let's take a look at some examples of that. Internal procedures, and again, procedures are things that happen rhythmically, systematically, all the time, right? Classic examples in the field of chiropractic. Article of the week, doing regular structured table talk so that everybody has a similar, not an identical, folks, but a similar experience in your practice, right? One of the things that a lot of big corporations do well that smaller companies don't do well, particularly chiropractic practices, is they don't protect their brand. Mrs. Smith and Mrs. Jones play gym together or bridge together, and they're both patients. And if they're not having a similar experience, they're going to start to talk and they're going to start to wonder why. And it's going to create some doubts. And people that doubt your service are probably not going to refer and may not even continue their service with you. So table talk allows people to have a similar experience so that you can structure it so that on visit 3, amongst whatever else you're going to talk to Mrs. Smith about, you're for sure going to talk about X, Y, or Z. And certainly with computerized software applications, which a lot of people are going to paperless offices, it's really easy to program in. And if not, it's pretty simple to just write a target word or a buzzword on your sheets that you're dealing with every day, your travel cards and so on, in order to remind you to do that on 3rd visit, on 4th visit, and so on. Healthcare demonstrations or doctor's report are very common. Family referral request is one that I love, where literally for a 2-week period of time after people come into my practice, they have the opportunity to refer any family member, not just their nuclear family, but any family member, Uncle Bob from Nebraska, Cousin Jane from Alaska, anywhere. They can come in and for 2 weeks and get a complimentary consultation examination in my office. In almost every jurisdiction that I've coached in around the world, if you're doing that kind of offer from within your practice, it's usually considered, ethical, legal. But as always, I would recommend you check it out with your governing council to ensure that you can do those sorts of things. There's also a follow-up letter that we send the next day to make sure that they're clear that there is a time limit on that offer. And it's been a tremendous way to get people to refer their families in for care. 2 targeted referrals per day during table talk is another strategy that's commonly used. Internal special events in my practice, it was a very event-oriented practice. We had patient appreciation days. We had things like mini putt tournaments and kids fun days and Christmas parties, referral contests, gifts of health, lots of different examples there. I have a client in Quebec City who recently gave away a Mediterranean cruise as a referral contest on a 60-day program. And it cost him a couple of grand, and people go, oh my God, $2,000 for a Mediterranean cruise, that's crazy, His return on investment for that, folks, which we'll talk about towards the end of this tonight, was off the charts. He ended up with 64 new clients, 64 new patients as a result of that. His case average is almost $2,000. What a case average means, folks, is that your average, it's the average amount of money your average client leaves in your business over the course of their lifetime with you. Because some people come twice and never come back, and some people stay for 30 years. So what's the average? Well, it's called your case average. His case average was $2,000. 64 clients times 2,000, that's $128,000 worth of revenue he generated on average for a $2,000 investment. That's genius, folks, right? That's absolute genius. That is not, that's called leverage is what that is. Examples of external procedures, things like social media, your website, an external sign that's out there for the world to see, regular talk shows, newspaper articles, all things that happen routinely in many practices that I coach. External special events could be things like screenings or talks or health fairs or flyers that get distributed to certain zip codes, postal codes, that kind of stuff. There's all of those sorts of ideas, and that's a very small list, folks, but I wanted to give you from a chiropractic standpoint some common ones that are used out there so that you can get examples, okay? What I'd like to do before we get into tracking ROI is talk about the steps to go through to creating a one-year plan, okay? So if you're someone that likes to jot notes, I would strongly encourage you to jot some notes here because this is basically a structure that we teach in our coaching programs, and I'd love to give it to you because it's been very, very effective over the last 27 years of my practice, and certainly 17 years now with thousands of clients. So first thing you want to do, folks, is to look at what you're presently doing in the world of marketing. And please don't tell me you're not doing anything, because you probably at least have a sign. You may have a yellow page ad. You may be talking to people occasionally about referring. There's probably at least a few things you're doing. So what you want to do is create a list of all of the things you're doing. And if you haven't been tracking your return on investment for your marketing, then just at least estimate or guesstimate, I call it, what you think your return on investment has been. And what you want to do is review, as I said, the ones that are working, and the ones that are working you want to keep, and possibly even look at ways to upgrade them to make them even better winners. The ones that aren't working, dump them. There's a plethora of ideas out there that you could be using. So don't think you got to get stuck to just a certain way of doing things, right? If you are going to be looking for new ideas, there's certainly lots of them out there on the internet and otherwise. Certainly feel free to contact me and my team at admin@drtompreston.com. That's admin@drtompreston.com, drtompreston.com. We've got a list of over 280, I think it is, or 310, or some crazy number of different ideas. So please don't think there's not a shortage of different ideas. And what you want to do is see which ones connect to your core values, which one resonate with you, in order to decide which ones you want to build in. Okay? So every time you do any marketing, folks, you're going to invest in anything in your business. You're going to invest in a new table. You can invest in some consulting. You can invest in some marketing. But you always want to estimate the return on investment. How many new clients do you feel like this is going to get? Multiply that by your case average, and then you'll immediately know whether it's a good use of your time, your energy, or your money. Because if you don't feel like you're going to get any new clients from it, it's a bad idea. Don't do it. As simplistic as that sounds. I can't tell you the number of clients that's been amazing to me that have said, I don't think I'm really going to get anybody from this, but I've been doing it for 4 years. Why are you doing it? It might be a cool idea, but by definition, if it's not has a high level of probability to bring in a new client, then it's not marketing. Because marketing, as we said earlier, is sharing the biggest and best within you to the rest of the world so that they get the opportunity to know what it is you do. They get an opportunity to know you, to like you, to trust you, which is the classic 3-step process journey people must go through in order to consider investing some of their hard-earned energy, money, or time in your products and services. All right, so once you've got that list and you've estimated your return on investment, you want to flush each one of them out, or what we call storyboard them, into nice bite-sized pieces. Because even doing something like an outside talk, it's like, okay, I need to pick a date, I need to pick a topic, I need to put out some sort of an offer sheet, I need to talk to people, I need to send out a fax to my local Chamber of Commerce, I need to create a rough draft of the talk, get my coach to edit it, I need to do a finished draft X number of days before the talk, right? So there's all of these steps, folks, just even doing like an outside talk, right? So you want to flesh it out and put it into a storyboards, bite-sized pieces, and you want to timeline every step. If I was going to do a talk on for example, I'm doing a program on the 29th of March in Toronto, which I'll tell you about, our vision program. And that program has got literally about 8 talks in it. So those 8 talks have all been storyboarded down into bite-sized steps. they've all been, timelined so that literally long before the 29th of March, each one of those talks is going to be rough drafted, worked through, edited, and polished, because it's the least I can do to the people that are going to come and get exposed to those ideas and to invest their hard-earned time, energy, and money to be a part of that program, to get more crystal clarity about their authentic vision for their lives, personally and professionally. I owe it to them, to you, to do a great job at that. And so we want to be able to break it down and make sure it's done well, not done flying by the seat of the pants. If you're don't want to be super person and you don't want to have a red cape and tight blue tights, then delegate as many of the steps as possible. Okay. Anything you can't delegate, you've got to do. You integrate it in with your time management system. I encourage you to set it up at least on a quarterly basis, ideally on a yearly plan basis. And then you want to be able to track your return on investment. This is the part that is so commonly not well done, right? In entrepreneurship in general, particularly in small business, particularly in this example, because we're talking largely to chiropractors. It's absolutely imperative that you understand your case average. And again, your case average is your average amount of dollars your average practice member leaves in your business over the course of their time with you. So it's made up of your patient visit average, which is your total office visits divided by your total new members, multiplied by your office visit average. Pardon me, which is your total income, ideally done over the course of a year, divided by your total office visits. So again, it's your PVA multiplied by your OVA, which gives us our case average, right? And once you have your case average, then it's pretty simple to run through and do a return on investment, all right? So let's just do an example here. Let's just say that your office visit average is $30 and your PVA is $50. In that example, then what's going to be, your case average is going to be 30 times 50 or $1,500, which means that every new practice member you attract your practice is worth about $1,500 to you on average. So let's just say you put on a patient appreciation day and the total cost to you was $1,000. And as a result of this promotion, you attracted 3 new practice members. Well, the ROI calculation is actually pretty simple. It's 3 new practice members multiplied by your case average, $1,500, which gives you a total revenue of that event of $4,500. Subtract the $1,000 that you invested, and it gives you $3,500 of profit. $3,500 to put it, multiplied by 100 to give us a percent gives us a 350% ROI, or in other words, 3,500 divided by 1,000 is 3.5, and multiplied by 100 to put into percentages gives us a return on investment of 350%, which in my world would be off the charts. Some people will do a patient appreciation day and they go, "Oh, coach, it sucks. I only had 3 new clients." And I'm going, "Really? Well, how much money did you invest?" "Well, it was $1,000. It's a 350% ROI. That's an out of the park home run, right? So again, it's perspective, and it's being able to, know the math to do that. Because a lot of times people say to me as a coach, they'll go, "Well, Coach Tom, what is it? How much money should I be investing in my marketing?" And my answer is, well, what's your case average? Because if your case average is $1,000, using that example, and you thought you're only going to get 1 new client, and you only invested $500, well, I mean, that is basically 100% return on your money. You invest 500, make 1,000. That's 100% return on your money. That's darn good return on your money. I'm going to bet if you're invested in the stock markets or bond ladders or any of the mutual funds or anything right now, you're not getting anywhere near 100% ROI on your money. So again, doing the math, folks, helps you understand, what you could or should be investing dollars-wise. The other part of ROI, of course, is to look at the time you invested. Remember one time I did a huge event. It was something we called Kids Day, which is where we had, I literally had to hire a team member for almost 2 months just to put this program together. And it was a huge thing. We had 374 children come through our practice in one day. We had the fire department there and the police department, and we were taking kids' fingerprints, for tracking purposes. And we had juggling clowns and face painters. And I mean, it was a great big thing. The mayor was there and did a ribbon cutting ceremony. And I mean, it was phenomenal. We ended up with, 17 or I think it was 18 new clients or, children who started care as a result of that process. So in terms of the money we invested, it was a home run. But in terms of the time, my team had over 300 hours into the program. And when you actually did the math, it wasn't as good as some of the other things we did. So as a result of that, and understanding our ROI, we didn't do that particular event anymore, right? Or you could say, my heart's really into it. How can I tweak it to do it better and make it better next year? So again, once you are tracking your ROI, it's imperative. one of the keys, folks, is to make sure that every new client you get, you ask, the front desk is asking several qualifying questions about how they heard about you. How did you hear about Dr. Tom? Did you read him in the newspaper? Did you see him at this event? Were you at this talk? No, it was just my friend Hazel. Really, you've never seen any of that? Well, actually, I do read his column every week in the newspaper. Boom. Now we know that the newspaper is producing, new clients. And again, when you track it, you add it up over the course of a month. If you're tracking the time and the money you're investing in each of your things, which doesn't take long, it's a spreadsheet. It takes about, a minute once a week. We do it at our team meetings. It's very easy to do your calculations, at the end. So folks, that is a run through marketing and possibly why your marketing sucks and what to do about it. It starts with your why. Once you got clarity about your why, I run you through some hows. One of the important things to do is to be objective with your marketing, and that's why tracking your ROI is very important. If you're someone that goes, you know what, Tom, this has been great, but I really feel like I still have some blocks that I need to get through, and some of those 10 things that you shared, I can see myself in 5 or 6 of those, then it strikes me that would be a very good use of your time and your money to get to our Releasing the Blocks program. It's a program that we did live several years ago. It's a series of 3 modules with print materials, as well as 3 MP3 audios that go with that walk you through each one of the 10 blocks, what the most common experience in my 17 years as a professional coach consultant is for why it shows up for you, and several action steps for how to release it from your life. It's really simple to get to, folks. You just go to www.blocks.drtompreston.com. Again, that's www.blocks.drtompreston.com, and it'll lead you to our server and our checkout cart. I believe that program is under $200, folks, right? So again, if you're looking for ROI, there is a great example of a way to move forward at releasing the blocks. Because if you get the hows and you have been marketing, but you still feel like there's something blocking you more on the why side, then that's why I developed that program. Because I realized it's not just about learning the hows. There's a lot more behind the hows, and that's the why. So if you're looking for clarification and ways to release some blocks on the why side, folks, then that's something that I would highly recommend. It's been wildly successful, and it's really helped a lot of people get on with connecting to their why, releasing the blocks, and therefore fulfilling their life's mission, their purpose in that great interconnected, purposes chain that I showed you the thing for earlier. If you'd like to get into what we've been talking about tonight in a whole lot more depth, I'd love to have you come and join us in Toronto on March the 29th for a program. It's called our Vision for Success program. It is an opportunity to come in and get absolute crystal clarity about your most authentic version of self. It's a very hands-on, it's not a talking head type program. All of my programs are very experiential. You're going to come into it. You're going to need to bring your computer with you because we're going to give you templates to use. We're going to be giving you the context and the content of material, and then we're going to put you to work. And we're going to have you doing some exercises, experiential and otherwise, to get to the depths of who you authentically are as a result of who you are, what your purpose is, how you want to express yourself in this life, and also insights into what may be blocking you for doing that. So if that sounds like something you'd love to invest in, I'd love you to find out more about it. Again, just go to www.seminar.drtompreston.com. That's seminar.drtompreston.com, and you can find out more about that March 29th program in Toronto. So folks, listen, I apologize for some of the technological glitches tonight. It would appear as though we had a blip right in the middle of our presentation tonight. I apologize for that. Technology is what it is, and I hope that you've got value out of tonight. If we can be of any service to you in the future in helping you release the blocks, or at that vision seminar, or if you'd like to have a conversation with us about the coach consulting work we do to help you express your most authentic self to the world, be happy to have a conversation. Just reach out to us at admin@drtompreston.com. That's admin@drtompreston.com, and we'd be happy to have a conversation with you. Absolutely, obviously no cost, just to find out whether what we have to offer is something that may be of service to you, and whether in fact we might make a good fit. So thank you for spending your time tonight, folks. I appreciate you being here, and I wish you the best of luck as you convert your marketing from something that possibly sucks to something that's amazing and successful, so that you can take your place in the great interconnected chain of purposes in life. Thanks for your attention, folks. We'll see you again real soon.